just a little inspiration came and wanted to start out with just noticing that yoga did come from India and really looking at the ancient teachings that really allow yoga to come to life. So, the Vedas, which are the oldest scripture, which were written 1,500 years before the Common Era, and then Upanishads came next, which was written about 700 years before the Common Era, and then the Bhagavad Gita, which was about 400 years, and the Yoga Sutras, which is around 3 to 200 years before the Common Era. And these texts that we look at and study and bring into our life, I was reflecting a little bit on them and knowing that we can at them in a couple different ways. We can look at them as instruction manuals for living a spiritual life, or noticing that they help us understand the science of yoga for living our lives as a spiritual act. And so when we come in and take this moment to kind of honor yoga as a spiritual practice, knowing that in Sanskrit, this is called a sadhana, right? So, our sadhana, this is our spiritual practices that we have. And this awareness of yoga being this way that we can come into union with ourself and our true intention. What is our true intention of the practice? And so I was going back to one of my favorite texts as I love the yoga and the sound, and it's by Russell Paul. And some of you have heard me in the past quote a few things from his writing, Yoga and the Sound. And I really love in the very first part of this book, there's a reference to yoga and deriving that yoga is a way of harmony, of creating balance, and also of ecstasy. And then there was a quote from the Bhagavad Gita, verse 6, number 16 to 21. And it says, "The yogi whose mind is in harmony finds rest in the spirit within and deep communion with the whole universe." So it's free from restlessness. Their soul is like a lamp whose flame burns steady in a shelter where no wind blows. Do you find this awareness when I was reflecting on that yoga creates a container for us to help us come to that place where we steady the body, we calm the mind, we find this place of center. And through this place of center, we start to feel communion with this awareness of what does spirituality mean to you? And there's this quality of bhakti or this devotion in the practice, which is quite meaningful. And in this Hinduism, in this tradition, there's a credit of spiritual vitality. There's also this awareness that yoga is not a religion, and we can know that yoga has this awareness of devoting to a higher power. And for each of us, that higher power may look very different or have a different name, or we come from a different kind of place of upbringing. So to honor that in each of us and to notice that each of our paths are leading us to this place that we might have the same end. And so this place of devotion. And from this place of devotion, there is passion and love for the hidden mystery of life. And so, as you just kind of take this time to notice the practice, just wanted to bring in a couple mudras. And there was a couple that really spoke to honoring the practice or bringing in this quality of devotion. And the first one is one that we use quite often in yoga classes, which is Anjali Mudra. So it's just placing the palms of the hands together. So you might even find as you take this gesture and you feel the touch of the palms of the hands and the thumb gently resting in front of the heart, maybe the heart even lifting up to meet the thumb. And this awareness that yoga is a form of prayer through the conduit of our bodies. And so as we hold this gesture, we can feel our bodies offering this quality of prayer or devotion through the body. And Anjali is invoking this divine union or this reverence and honoring the divinity within ourselves and all beings. So it's bringing apart this unity, the symbolization of integrating our polarities or the duality within us and around us. As you pause here, you might even notice the breath even being directed to the heart, turning inward to your authentic self. And then the hands gently moving away and just coming into Padma. So in Padma, as we bring them away, we just allow the thumb and the pinky to open, and we feel that gesture of the lotus. And as we come into the lotus, we feel this quality of unconditional love, the quality of the heart, the fourth chakra. Keeping the awareness at the heart as the doorway to our soul, our spirit, to our essence, to this mystery. This grand mystery within and around us is through the heart. So it instills a lightness and an openness. Also a really wonderful mudra for invigorating the thymus gland. We feel a little bit of a movement up with the energy. And then I just want you to bring the palms down if you lifted them, and then touch the pad of the ring in the middle and the index. And then you feel the hands open. So there's just a gesture of bringing the hands up. You can have your back of your hands on your thighs. I'm just bringing my hands up so you can keep them. And we're going to go into Jnana Yoga. And we're going to bring a little bit of the symbolism in. So I want you just to kind of wiggle your index finger and feel it on both hands. And so you can bring in this symbolism of the index representing asmita or our personality or our ego, and the thumb representing this great mystery or divine consciousness. And then feeling as the index starts to curl inward to touch the thumb, we have the meeting of the ego meeting our true self. And then the other three fingers, which are the middle of the ring and the pinky, we allow them to extend. And as we continue to feel the index and the thumb, we recognize the wholeness and the limitlessness limitlessness of our true being. And the middle, the ring, and the pinky fingers, they represent the gunas. So these qualities within us and around us of Raja, activity, tamas, inertia, and sattva, this balance. And as we release these three fingers downward, it represents that return of the gunas to this state of balance, in which they no longer disturb us. So just take a few breaths just to notice this awareness of this gesture of higher knowing or knowledge or clear seeing, this awakening. And then as you release the hands and the gesture, just take a moment to just pause and feeling this intention towards the practice of yoga. So thinking when you think of the practice of yoga, what comes in? How would you describe the quality of the practice of yoga for you, as we all reflect for each of us? So it might just be the practice of getting on your mat or asana, or you might include the breath, or you might feel the qualities of the limbs of yoga coming in. So this acknowledgement that yoga is not only the practice of movement, but it's a practice, it's a spiritual practice that involves all limbs of yoga. So the yamas and the niyamas, these vows towards ourself and how we move through the world. The practice of asana, so allowing our body to be the conduit of the evolution of the forms, the breath, noticing the quality of the senses, how they bring us into the present moment, but on also how we can withdraw them and move inward and recognize the introspective awareness of our inside space. Creating something meaningful to focus the mind on, dharana, to bring in streams of consciousness in dhyana, and moving towards this samyama of this union of our focus, our attention, the streaming of meditation into samadhi. So this awareness that yoga is really this practice where we're coming back to self and acquiring this form of liberation. So as you kind of pause, I want you just to take a moment just to write down the teachers that have shared with you the practice of yoga so far. So one of the ways that we can honor this quality of yoga is honoring where yoga comes from, and then honoring the limbs of yoga, and then also honoring our teachers. So all of the teachers that have touched us through the years. So if you were just to write them down, and then beside each of them, just take a moment to reflect, what was the most impactful part of practicing with them, or something they shared with you, or maybe you pause and just pay your respect to the sharing of knowledge and to their dedication to the practice. And so just take a moment to just write down the teachers and what resonates or has inspired you, or a pause of thanks and dedication.